Hello and welcome to, I think this is the third year we've done our little Horror 101. I'm Paul,
I'm Dave.
and for the first movie this year, I gave Dave the list of the five movies we're going to do, and he decided he wanted to start with I Saw the TV Glow, even though he knew nothing about this or any of the other movies on the list.
Yeah, to a fairly decent extent.
Alright, so I Saw the TV Glow is a 2024 American psychological horror drama film. I guess that's what we would call it. um,
Yeah,
originally released to theaters on May 3rd, 2024. It did about 5.4 million at the box office. It wasn't like necessarily a huge hit, but I doubt this movie cost a whole lot to make either. It's written and directed by, and I'm probably going to butcher pronouncing her name, Jane Shubron. Shubron? I don't know.
hmm.
So, Dave, what was the story of this movie?
Well, again, the basic premise of the story is a guy sees a girl, someone intrigued because she supposedly likes the TV show that he likes, and they somewhat get together and hang out and do stuff because they like this one TV show. And life kind of goes on. The girl sadly kind of disappears until she comes back, kind of explaining some things that relate to the show. And in certain cases, it's a marvelous mesh of reality and TV show craziness.
Yeah, so the film starts in 1996, where we meet Owen and Maddie, and they bond over this television show called The Pink Opaque, which is absolutely not Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I don't know why you think it's Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Oh, that's a ridiculous thought. What are the thoughts of two girls that could psychically connect through the Nightmare Verse, defeating monsters every week from an evil villain of the whole show would relate to Buffy the Vampire Slayer? Nothing correlates with that.
Yes, but the show airs after Owen's bedtime, so Maddie ends up sneaking him tapes of the show so he can watch it later. They both are deeply connected to the show, and Maddie says that she says it feels more real to her than real life. We fast forward
Mhm.
2 years while they're watching The Pink Opaque. Maddie begins sobbing inexplicably. She later explains that she has resolved to run away. She expects Owen to join her, but he finds himself unable to go through with it and stays behind. Later, Owen's mother dies of cancer, Maddie goes missing, and The Pink Opaque is cancelled after 5 seasons. We then skip ahead to 2006. Owen still lives with his father, Frank, and works at a local movie theater. Maddie suddenly appears one night and takes Owen to a bar where it's safe for them to talk. And it's totally not inspired by a certain bar out of Twin Peaks. There might be a lot of references in this
Mm.
movie to, like, cult TV shows.
No, no, nothing of the sort, I'm sure.
She rebuffs his pleas for her to contact the police, instead questioning what he remembers of the Pink Opaque and claiming to have spent the last 8 years inside the show itself. At her urging, Owen rewatches the final episode, in which Mr. Melancholy captures Isabel and Tara and imprisons their consciousness in a pocket universe known as the Midnight Realm, which bears a strong resemblance to the real world. Mr. Melancholy's minions then bury Isabella and Tara alive before the episode abruptly ends. After finishing the episode, Owen suffers a nervous breakdown and attempts to smash his head through the TV screen before Frank pulls him out. The next night, Maddie explains to Owen that after running away, she continued to feel unsatisfied, so she paid a man to bury her alive. After suffocating, she woke up in the Pink Opaque as Tara. She explains that they are in fact in the Midnight Realm and that their true identities are that of Tara and Isabel, respectively. The memories of their real lives have manifested as episodes of a TV show. Maddie then encourages Owen to allow her to bury him alive so that he may return to their reality. She leads him to a football field to be buried, but he fends her off and rushes home. He never sees her again, but remains haunted by her claims. In 2010, Frank dies of a stroke, and the movie theater owned Worksat goes out of business. His boss transfers him to a family entertainment center. One night, he rewatches The Pink Opaque on a streaming service, but finds it very juvenile and kind of not that good. Uh, and it has different cast members. Over the next several years, both his depression and asthma increasingly worsen. In 2030, during a child's birthday party at work, Owen begins screaming that he is dying and begs for help, though nobody reacts. He locks himself in the bathroom and cuts his chest open with a box cutter, smiling when he sees a TV screen playing The Pink Opaque inside himself. He returns to work and timidly offers apologies to partygoers and coworkers for his outburst, but nobody responds to him. So, what did we think of this film, Dave? Because I like parts of it, but I don't like other parts.
Okay. Well, on whole, it's definitely an interesting kind of concept with the couple ideas that it went with and explored. I think for the most part, with the idea of the two main characters' interactions of bonding over the show, going through life expectancy sort of stuff, and the concerns that kind of came up with the thoughts of things. It was an interesting mix. And I think in certain sort of cases, it took the, I suppose, obvious sort of way with it for the base sort of idea. And then on whole, it sort of kept it to a decent extent for most of the sort of story from there. And then, of course, just the idea of the TV show with the effects that it was at the start with simpler sort of ideas and other sorts of things that it did with it was interesting and mildly hilarious. And then, especially with showing off the show after it was being streamed, that uh, it was definitely kidified, just not any sort of thing from there. Interesting sort of thought from that, and just adding to the story from there. And on whole, I wasn't expecting too much horror or any sort of case from that, but definitely with the box cutter scene, kind of left the bits of and case with that. But on whole, it turned out good enough for the idea for the film as it sort of went along. But I think aside from the one particular effect that they did with Mr. Melancholy within his fantasy uh, being sent to the nightmare realm, with the design of just a moon head, the deterioration and whatnot, it worked out fairly well, especially with what they probably had to run with cost.
Yeah, I'm assuming this film was made on a very low budget. Um, I like the movie. I really like the second half. I feel like there are parts in the first half where it's a bit slow and could have cut maybe a couple of minutes here or there because there are parts where I was like, okay, can we move on now, please? Um, so there's definitely maybe like I would probably cut 10 minutes out of this movie and make it a tight 90. The
Mm.
other problem I had is I've seen Justice Smith in other things.
Mm.
He was the lead in the Detective Pikachu movie, and I quite liked him in that. I don't know what he's doing with his voice in this movie, but I found it very grating.
Mm. I think it's one of the particular things, especially with the style of character that they were trying to go with being so sheltered, not as expressive in certain sort of cases. And yeah, especially with other sorts of things that I've seen him with, couple things that he's done with voice acting, other movies and whatnot. It definitely is not the typical sort of thing he goes for. But I think for the basis of the character, at least starting out and then doing the early part of the story, I can also sort of see that until the end when he really is going at the very edge of sanity, there are bits that, yeah, it's needed to somewhat fit within the character, but I can definitely see some people being like, "Wow, he did not sound that great."
It's not even that. There's just something about the way he's speaking that really just grated on my nerves. I was just like, oh,
Hmm.
just stop. It's so annoying. Um, but I did like the movie.
Mhm.
Um, Overall, I thought it was very good. I thought it's kind of not really a horror movie. I mean, I guess it is, but it's more of like a psychological drama. But I guess it's kind of a horror movie. Um,
Yeah, and I think especially with how the show sort of went on with its style of that, and especially with the line being up, "Let's go for a season 6."
yeah,
Just kind of the case of it could supposedly expand the idea whether more realistic psychological horror sort of case or literally just make the show within the movie.
I did like the glimpses we get of the show because it did feel like a very genuine like 1990s kind of crappy kids show.
Mhm.
I was like, "Oh, this feels like this could have been an episode of like The Odyssey or something. Like some kids show that probably like almost nobody remembers."
Man,
So did you get that there was any maybe not so subtle allegories going on in this film? Like they might have beat you over the head with a few of them.
maybe just a touch. Nothing that I could specifically say outright, but it was pretty much the case. Movie playing along, it's like, okay, I get your message. It comes out and smacks me over the head with it. It's like, I know, I get your message. Move on, please.
Yeah, so there's it okay. It's very much an allegory for being transgender. There's a lot of symbolism of that, and especially there's a lot of people who are shot in like white, pink, and blue, and it's like, okay, that's you're clearly making a thing here, which is fine. Like, whatever. Um, I was like, it's a bit heavy-handed, but I don't think it's done poorly.
Suppose. And I guess the other particular thing is depending on the idea whether or not going either more subtly would have caused it to either fly over too many people's heads or the base idea of what they had in mind, the censors or them doing a second run would have been like, maybe we should run this through again, maybe to not be too explicit.
Yeah, I so the okay, so I went into it knowing that it was an allegory for being transgender. So like maybe I'm picking up on things that the average film goer wouldn't have seen if they didn't know that going in, which
Hmm.
is entirely possible. But there were definitely some shots I'm like, that wasn't terribly subtle. But I did like the movie,
Hmm.
and I thought it did a fairly good job, telling its story and having its allegory, and yeah, it was fun. Did you see there was a little cameo from a Buffy actress in this film?
Possibly. There might have been the twinge of it, but nothing that I immediately remembered after watching.
Okay, so I think she's only in for like maybe one scene. There is there's a brief cameo by Amber Benson, who you would know better as Tara from Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Okay.
She plays I forget who she plays in it. She plays I think somebody's mom or something. But like I said, I think she's only in it very briefly. And also, one of the characters in the fictional show, well, maybe not fictional show, is named Tara, which I'm sure is absolutely. Oh, right, she plays Johnny Link's mom.
Okay.
Yeah, she's
No,
only
I
in
have a
like one
vague
scene.
recollection of that. The one of the characters being like, oh, okay, no, I think I recognize her now. Yeah, with all that there.
Yeah, and obviously one of the
Mhm.
characters in the Pink Opaque is called Tara, and I'm sure that wasn't intentional at all.
No. No, of course not.
So, what did you think of Fred Durst's performance as Frank, where he doesn't deliver a single line, I don't think, but I thought he was quite good in his three or four scenes.
Him, I think there was just one particular line that I remember him saying, just them driving in the car. Isn't that a TV show for girls?
Right. Yes, he does say yes. Yes.
But I think on whole, it was one of the cases of, especially with the character and the base idea that sort of went on with it, that he was there, someone at least, for him to have his family, though after losing his mom, there wasn't that much. But there was also that kind of distance with him that sort of left the case of uh, father not really relating to son, other sort of thing from there. But also the additional idea of it's a agent of Mr. Melancholy that's keeping him somewhat in check.
Yeah, assuming that what, like, Maddie and Owen, like, assuming that that's real, because
Hmm.
we don't really know. They could both just be having, like, a psychotic break.
Yeah. The television within the chest is supposedly, but again, whether or not that's reality or not is also left up to the imagination.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So I thought it was quite good. I think if
Hmm.
it sounds like something you'd be interested in, you should watch it. But I also
Yes.
don't think it's, like, incredible.
Yeah, on whole, it's an interesting enough idea to work with. Again, there's most likely people that could have argued for increases on either actually maybe focusing more on the actual TV show itself, going into a different sort of direction on things. But again, always the case of it could be something completely different. That's not what the movie is.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's quite a good experience, though. I think, you know,
Mhm.
it's a fun little film. So
It is. And I think a decent enough starter for the spooky season without going into the increased heart palpitations and the nearly going into a stroke.
okay, Dave. So I have selected um, the movie for next week.
Mhm.
Um, this was a pretty big hit at the time. Um, it did fairly well.
Mhm.
It's a little film called The Exorcism of Emily Rose. Are you familiar with this movie at all?
I'm not sure if the specific name rings a bell.
Okay, so
But
the
there's like mild sort of cases of either meeting with some people a couple of years back around the time it was released and being like, hey, let's go see this horror film. And me just sort of being within the friend group and being like, okay.
so this came out in 2005, and it is about a priest who is accused of, I think it's negligent homicide after he performs an exorcism, and the person he's performing it on dies. It was co-written and directed by Scott Derrickson, whose work you would be familiar with because he directed the Doctor Strange movie for Marvel, and also
Oh,
I think he co-wrote and I know he directed The Black Phone, which you have seen.
that.
So yes, I think you'll really enjoy this. It's a very Scott Derrickson film in that
Mhm.
it deals with supernatural stuff, but he deals with it from a very interesting perspective, which we'll get into more next week.
Okay.
Alrighty. So I think that's going to be it for I Saw the TV Glow. Do you have any last minute thoughts, Dave?
Now, I think just the case of one last final touch was messing with a couple of the particular things within the arcade at the end, showing up particular characters from the show, other sorts of things, and that one last arcade game that close up of it, then pulling out, having the little description, "You're dying."
yes, yeah. There's definitely a couple of shots there where in the arcade where it's like, oh hey, they've taken like the iconography of the show and are now using it to market to adults who are nostalgic.
Mm-hmm.
So until next time, I'm Paul.
And I'm Dave.